If you're running a small or medium-sized business, I get it. All this talk about climate disclosure can feel overwhelming. But in this explainer, we're going to cut right through the noise and get to what you actually need to know about the new IFRS S2 standard, specifically the rules on metrics and targets. This isn't some abstract question for a business school class anymore. For SMEs, this is real. Your biggest customers, your bank, even your future investors, they're all starting to ask for this data. So answering this question well, that's not just compliance, that's strategy. And look, this is not about just ticking a box to say you've done your homework. This standard is actually a framework for building a stronger, more future-proof business. So let's dive in and see exactly how it works. Here's the game plan. We'll start by looking past just emissions. Then we'll cover the core metrics you need to track, talk about how to actually build your targets, get into the nitty-gritty rules on carbon credits, and finally, we'll wrap it all up.
Okay, first things first. The biggest mental shift with IFRS S2 is that it forces you to think way, way beyond just your company's carbon footprint.
What this really means is that it's a two-way street. It's now just about your impact on the climate anymore. It's also about the climate's potential impact on your bottom line. And guess what? Investors want to understand the traffic going in both directions.
So if it's a two-way street, what does that look like in practice? Well, the standard lays out 7 very specific, mandatory metrics that every single business has to report on, no matter what industry you're in.
So of course, you've got your greenhouse gas emissions, that's the foundation. But then it gets a lot deeper. You have to report on transition risks, things like a new carbon tax hitting your business, and physical risks, like your supply chain getting hammered by a hurricane. But it also asks you to report on the flip side, the opportunities, how you're deploying capital, whether you use carbon pricing, and even how you pay your executives. This is really where the financial core of your climate strategy comes into focus. And here's the crucial part. You actually have to put a number on it. You have to say, this is how much of our business, in dollars and cents or as a percentage, is exposed to these risks. And just as importantly, this is how much of our business is geared up to seize the opportunities, like, say, launching a new line of green products. The standard essentially wants you to follow the money. Where is your capital actually going? You have to disclose how much you're investing in tackling these issues. And if you're using an internal carbon price to help make those decisions, you need to be totally transparent about what that price is and how you use it. Now, here's where it gets personal. The standard creates a direct line between climate performance and leadership accountability. It's not just about what the company says it's going to do, it's about how its leaders are personally incentivized to make it happen. And it's not enough to just say bonuses are vaguely linked to climate goals. Nope. You have to report the exact percentage. This is the ultimate proof of having skin in the game, and it's one of the first things savvy investors will look for to see if you're truly serious. Okay, so you've got all your metrics lined up. The next logical step is to set some targets. And you guessed it, the standard has some very specific rules to make sure those targets are actually credible and not just some vague, fluffy promise. First off, you've got to be crystal clear about what kind of target you're setting. Is it an absolute target, meaning you're shrinking the total size of your emissions pie no matter how much your business grows? Or is it an intensity target, where you're just making each slice of the pie more efficient? Both are totally valid, but an investor needs to know which one you're aiming for. And for every single target you set, you have to lay out these 4 key things. What's the metric? What's the time period? What's your starting point? And what are the check-ins along the way? Now, why so specific? It's because this is the only way investors can actually compare you to your competitors and hold you accountable from one year to the next. All right, let's talk about something that gets a lot of attention and a lot of debate. Carbon credits. If your company plans to use them, IFRS S2 has some really strict rules you need to follow to make sure everything's above board. Bottom line, if you're going to report a net emissions target, one that relies on buying offsets, you have to be almost painfully detailed about how you're getting to that number. This is not optional. It's the standard's main defense against greenwashing. So this table pretty much sums it up. You can't just report your net target. You have to show your gross target too, the number before any offsets. You have to name the organization that verified your credits. You have to say what kind they are. Did they come from planting trees or from a high-tech carbon capture plant? And did they simply prevent an emission or did they actually pull carbon out of the air? Trust me, these details really, really matter. So after all that technical detail, what's the big picture? What does this all really mean for your SME day-to-day? How do you put it all together? The most important thing I can tell you is to shift how you think about this. This isn't just a report card on how you did last year. It's a powerful tool for managing risk, for making smarter strategic plans, and at the end of the day, for building real, lasting trust with your investors.
And that's really the question I want to leave you with. When you sit down to do this work, are you just looking backward and documenting the past? Or are you using this framework to chart a course for a more resilient and, frankly, more profitable future? Thinking about that can turn this whole thing from a chore you have to do into a genuine strategic advantage.